Hello students, welcome to Misostudy again. In the today's session, we will be talking about certain CBSE pattern question exercises. In the previous sessions, we have discussed about the chapter in detail. Now we will be focusing on certain questions. Now let's move on to the first question. First 3 questions are of 1 mark each, and after that we have is a 2 mark question, and after we have is a 3 marks and the 5 mark question. So let's start the today's session with 1 mark question first. First, give an example of an organism that enter into diapause and why. Now, diapause, what is a diapause? Diapause is that condition, it is that state of an animal where the animal remain inactive because unfavorable conditions are there. Later on, if that unfavorable condition is converted into a favorable condition, the organism again grow. So, in this we have a very good example of a zooplankton. Zooplanktons. Zooplanktons undergo diapause. Diapause, or it is a state of inactivity, or if I say this is a state of suspended growth. Suspended growth. Right. Now, this is a zooplankton. In which condition? Here in the question it is written why. So, you have to explain for that why as well. So, undergo diapause in unfavorable condition. In unfavorable condition. Now, what is unfavorable condition? Sometimes the water temperature is not favorable, sometimes water temperature is very high, sometimes water temperature is very low. In that condition also they undergo the diapause and again grow in favorable condition. Favorable conditions. So, hope you are getting what I am trying to say, right. So, this was a question number 1. That correct answer is a zooplankton. Let us move on to the next question. How do seeds bearing plants tide over dry and humid weather condition? All the questions which I have included in the today's session is from previous year CBSE exam. So, be very careful. How do seeds bearing plants tide over dry and the humid environment? Now, you all must have heard of mesophytes. Mesophytes. What are mesophytes? These are a seed bearing plants. Seed bearing plants. Right. They have tubers. Show tubers and rhizomes. They show tubers, they show rhizomes, they show comb, right. And when unfavorable conditions are there, basically they remain underneath the soil, they remain suspended in the soil. When they remain suspended in the soil, then when a favorable condition comes, they again grow. So, grow in favorable conditions. Right? How do seed bearing plants tide over the dry and the hot weather condition? Now, let us move on to the next question. Next question is also a 1 mark question. Name the 2 intermediate hosts on which the human liver fluke depends to complete its life cycle so as to facilitate the parasitization of its primary host. Now, they are asking about the intermediate host. Here it is written the human liver fluke, that means they are talking about Fasciola hepatica. In this, the intermediate hosts are there, intermediate host. Intermediate host in this case are, first is a snail and second is a fish. These are the two intermediate hosts, so that they can parasitize the primary host, right. So, this is the correct answer for question number 3. Let us move on to the next question, question number 4. How do mammals living in a colder region and seals living in a polar region able to reduce the loss of a body heat? This is a 2-mark question. You have to explain these questions in a bit of detail as compared to the 1 mark. So, they are asking about what are the changes that happens in case of the mammals when they are present in the colder region, seals, etc. How do they able to reduce the loss of their body heat? This is the question. Now, you all must have heard of a Allen rule, and we have already studied in the sessions regarding the Allen's rules. So, Allen rule is that which says organism living in a polar climate, organism living in a colder climate, they have a shorter extremities. Now, what is this shorter extremities? That means the overall length of their arms and the limbs, overall the size of their pinna, that is greatly reduced, so that overall surface area of body is reduced. If surface area of body is reduced, then what will happen? The heat exchange that normally happen will not happen in that much surface area, because surface area is reduced, less number of the heat will be reduced or exchanged. Now, Allen rule, organism living in colder climate have shorter extremities. Right, such as ear pinna, external ear, such as limb size, right. And what is the reason for that? To reduce surface area, so that less heat is exchanged. This is called as a Allen's rule, right. Now, in this they have a very specific thing so that the heat loss can be reduced. That is the presence of a fat layer. When you see under the skin, a fat layer is present which is called as a blubber, so that overall the heat should not get exchanged. For example, in case of seals have fat layer under skin, that is called as a blubber, to reduce heat loss. So, this is a 2-mark question. This is how you have to answer. First of all, you have to explain about the Allen's rule, then you have to give an example of a seal. Now, let us move on to the next question. So, the next question is also of a 2-mark. Hope you have noted down this. Now, Koel is clever enough to lay eggs in a crow's nest. Write the reason for this peculiar behavior and name the type of interaction. Koel lays egg in a crow's nest. This is called as a brood parasitism. Brood parasitism. Right. Now, in this case, what happens? Koel lay egg in crow's nest. Right. What is the reason for that? The reason is that when the Koel lays egg, they always lays egg in the crow's nest, And we can see during the course of time, when we see the structure, they cannot prepare their own nest. Koel doesn't prepare their own nest. So, during the course of evolution, what has happened? Similarity among the crow's egg and the Koel's egg is there. Similarity in the size, similarity in the structure is seen, so that the crow cannot recognize that this is their egg and this is not their egg, right? So, during course, first of all, the reason is that they do not prepare nest. They do not prepare nest, right? During evolution, similarity among egg size and shape is seen, right? So, this was a question number 5. This is how you have to attempt. And when they are asking about the interaction in this case is called as a parasitism. And which parasitism? That is a brood parasitism. Now, let us move on to the next question, the 6th question. So, the 6th question is again of a 2 marks. Explain Verhulst-Pearl logistic growth of a population. Very direct question, very easy also. Verhulst-Pearl logistic growth equation. Now, listen to the things carefully. When we talk about the environment in which the resources are present in limited amount, resources in limited amount. Right. So, the organism who will be living over there, they will be depending upon the resources, that is a natural process. When they will be depending upon the resources, a time will come when all the resources will be depleted. In that case, a graph is obtained and the graph is obtained like this, right. This is called as a K, carrying capacity. We have discussed in the session carrying capacity. That beyond this carrying capacity, the population will not be able to grow. In this, the whole graph, this is a population size with respect to time. This is a population size, this is a time. Now, listen to the things very carefully. Whole graph which is obtained among the population size and the time is divided into 3 components. First one is called as a lag phase. This is called as a lag phase. This is called as an exponential phase, where there is a fast growth of organism. Exponential phase. This is called as a stationary phase. Stationary phase. Stationary phase, so this is also called as a plateau phase. Now, when this type of graph is obtained, a factor comes which is called as a carrying capacity, and population will not be able to grow beyond this carrying capacity. Carrying capacity denoted by K. Now, equation says dN by dt is not only equal to Rn. In fact, one more factor came in this, that is K minus N by K. Right? This is called as a equation for this graph. Right? So, what is happening? This is a population growth rate, and there is a factor which is called as a environment resistance, which is called as a carrying capacity. Question arises, what is a carrying capacity? Population is not able to grow beyond a particular line. The reason is that the resources which is present in the environment, as I have discussed, they are limited resources, which normally happens in our atmosphere also, which normally happen in our surrounding also. We do not have unlimited resources. So, we have to make a relationship between them. So this is a type of graph and this is that equation of this population. And we have discussed already in session regarding this. So let's move on to the next question, that is this question is of a 3 marks. Explain with the help of suitable examples the 3 different ways by which the organism overcome their stressful condition lasting for a short duration. Some stressful conditions are there. We all are sitting in a classroom. Let's suppose that we all are sitting in a classroom and like what happened is AC is not working, the fan is not there, nothing is there, and even you feel so humid in the classroom. After some time, some will faint over here, some will migrate from this position, and some will able to adjust. Here they are asking about the 3 different ways by which the organism can overcome the stressful condition. So as I have discussed, one is called as a suspend and second is called as a migration. These are the ways, right? Now, suspend means, we all know in case of the fungi, in case of the lower invertebrates, spores are formed and those spores, they are having a covering around it, due to which they protect them from an unfavorable condition, and when a favorable condition comes, they again grow. And we have talked about that in case of the suspend, we have an example of such as the fungi are there, bacteria are there, they produces spore, right, and they suspend their growth. In the suspend also, you have to explain about the 2 procedure which we have learnt in detail. The first is called as a hibernation. Hibernation. What is a hibernation? Hibernation is called as a winter sleep. Winter sleep. That some of the organism during the winter condition, they suspend their growth for some time. This is called as a winter sleep. For example, the polar bears are there. When extreme temperature is very low, at that time they remain inactive in their home or in their where they used to live. So that is called as a hibernation. Second is called as a estivation. Estivation. That is called as a summer sleep. Called as a summer sleep. Right. Next we have is this is called as a certain kind of adaptation. Next we have is a migration. Migration means to move from one place to another. That means to move from one place which becomes unfavorable, they will migrate to those positions which are favorable to them. In this you must have heard of immigration and emigration. These are the 2 words which you have to explain. That is a moving into a population and moving out of a population. You must have heard of Siberian birds. Siberian birds. Some birds from the Siberia, in the winter season in the Siberia, they migrate to some hotter climate region. They migrate to Rajasthan, they migrate to Bharatpur, because the temperature over there was unfavorable and temperature over here is favorable, and they go for a long distance migration, right. They are also called as a migratory birds. Migratory birds. So what you have to explain in this? The basically 2 procedures you have to explain. One is called as a suspend and second is called as a migration. Suspend means, in this you can take an example, there are different I have explained, like in case of the suspend you can write some can undergo the diapause condition, right, like we have discussed. Some undergo the migration, like they move from one place to another. Some show a different kind of adaptation, they go for a winter sleep or they can go for a summer sleep. right? And we have discussed about each of these in detail in the session. Hope you remember that, and you have to write the each and everything in detail. So this was a question number 7, a 3 marks question. This is how you have to attempt. Let's move on to the next question, that is a question number 8. This question number 8 is again of a 3 marks. Let's see. Explain the birth rate in a population by taking a suitable example. Now, what is a birth rate? In the sessions, we have discussed about the natality or a birth rate. That means a number of individuals born by birth. There are different ways, either by birth or by fragmentation or by asexual reproduction, per 1000 of individual, is called as a natality or is called as a birth rate. In this, you can talk about any example, like in a population, initial the population is this much. After 2 years, the population becomes this much. What is the birth rate? Because it is calculated per unit of time. In this, what you will do, you will calculate the overall change in the population because of the birth. You have to calculate the total number of birth. You have to minus the 2 demographic data which they have given. And after that, you will be able to get the difference among them. Difference will be divided by the changes in the year, changes in the time, and there you will get the actual natality or the birth rate. Write the other 2 characteristics which only a population shows but an individual cannot. Yes, there are, we have discussed in the sessions also regarding the population growth. Population growth. That is a characteristic feature of a population, that is not a characteristic feature of an individual. Population growth, a population is growing. A population is very fast growing because of many reasons. First is a birth rate. Second is the environment is favorable. Third, no predators are there. Food is present in an enormous amount. This is how the population will grow. But does that affect an individual size? It will not affect. Let's talk about how population decreases. Predators are present in the environment. Environment become unfavorable. Food is not there, the water is not there, the climate condition is not favorable. That is a population growth. That is a feature of a population, that is not a feature of an individual. Now, let's talk about another, that is a population density. Have you ever heard of individual density? So, population density, that is a number of individuals present per unit area in that particular time, that is called as a population density. Per unit area, per unit volume, that is called as a density. And have you ever heard of individual density? That is not the case. So, these are the 2 important characteristics, which is a characteristic of a population which is not of an individual, right. So, this was a question number 8. Let's move on to the next question, that is a question number 9. So, this question number 9 is of a 5 marks. So, let's start reading this question. List any 4 abiotic components that leads to variation in the physical and the chemical condition of a habitat. We have to identify those factors which affect the overall growth of living organisms, which is because or which are lead to the physical and the chemical changes in the habitat. In this, you can talk about temperature, you can talk about light, water, and very important, soil, because all of these, they are related to habitat. If in the habitat temperature is not favorable, population will not be able to survive. Light is not there, water is not there, and the soil is not there. So, this question is a quite indirect sort of a question. This question, you might be feeling that it's a complex, but it is a very simple question. To talk about a temperature, temperature is important for all the metabolic reaction which happens in the body. We are having a constant body temperature, but there are those organisms also who doesn't have a constant body temperature. And those who doesn't have a constant body temperature, they undergo a certain kind of adaptation to change according to the environment. In the temperature, you have to explain about the two type of animal, the eurythermal and the stenothermal. Eurythermal are those which can tolerate a wide range of temperature. Stenothermal are those which can tolerate only a narrow range of temperature. Second we have is a light. Light is also a very important factor, because light is important for the photosynthesis, and photosynthesis is done by producer. Along with is the flowering, movement of organism from one place to another, that is also affected by light. Photoperiodism we have already studied. So in this you can take an example of a photoperiodism. Next is a water. Water we know that is also very important. For every reaction water is important. Even let's talk about the fishes. The fishes who is living in the fresh water will not be able to survive in the sea water, right? Next is the soil. Topography of soil, water holding capacity of a soil, how many layers are present in the soil, the porous the soil is not. All of these, they affect the organism which is living over there. So you have to explain about each of these steps in detail, because in the second part they have asked about the components, right? In detail you have to explain, right? Now let's move on to the next question. Question number 10. What is an age pyramid? Explain with the help of figures the three different type of age pyramid represented by human population. So age pyramid is what? Age pyramid in which the different age group, they are plotted. Different age group individual. Age group. Now can I ask you one question? We have discussed about the age pyramids in detail. In the age pyramid, have I ever mentioned that this is an age pyramid of a female, this is an age pyramid of a male? We haven't. So that means it is that property which is of a combined effect. In this, the organisms are divided into three age groups. The first age group is called as those organisms who belong to a pre-reproductive phase. Those organisms who belong to a post-reproductive phase. And in between also we have the organism who belong to reproductive age group. One thing should be clear in your mind. Those organisms who belong to a pre-reproductive age group, they are important for determining that this population is growing or not. In the second part, they have asked about the three different type of age pyramid. There are three different type. First is called as let's take an example of a growing population. Growing population. In case of growing population, the graph which is obtained, as I have discussed also, now I'm not making that graph. So in the growing population, the graph which is obtained, that is of a triangular shaped. Triangular shaped. In this, the organisms of a pre-reproductive age group, they are more as compared to the reproductive, and reproductive are more as compared to the post-reproductive, right? So the graph which will obtain, that is a triangular. Next is called as a declining population. In the declining population, the curve that obtained is of a urn-shaped. 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 In this, what happens is that number of organisms who are present at the reproductive age groups, they are more. Right. Third one is called as a stable population. In the stable population, the graph which comes out is of a bell shaped. is of a bell shaped, right. In the bell shaped, the organism who belong to a pre-reproductive is equal to the organism who belong to approximately equal to the pre-reproductive and the reproductive age group, right. So, in this you have to explain about the growing population, the declining population and the stable population, right. With the example which type of graph is obtained, you have to draw the example, these diagrams also, in which the graphical representation where the three different type of organism are present. So, this was a question number 10. We have discussed all the 10 questions, but you do not have to stop here. You have to revise more and more questions, because you are appearing for your CBSE exam, and the exam is not far, it is near only. So, we will meet you in the next session. We will discuss about a new chapter. Till then, take care of yourself. Thank you so much, students, for watching this.